We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live. Boxingego unpack. Yeah. We unpack. We unpack. We unpack. Coming to you live.
Hey, baby, you want baby? I know that.
Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford. They meet up for their very first press conference. And Boxingego is getting ready to let you know what really happened. Listen, what really happened, my original series, a brand new episode. Listen, I'm often imitated, but never duplicated. If you want the latest and greatest in boxing news, and you want to know what's really going on, all you have to do is click on my channel, subscribe, and go watch what really happened. And I'm about to let you know. Now, in case you're new, I am not fond of this fight. I have expressed why I don't really care about Canelo versus Crawford. It feels forced. It feels man-made. I guess that's a synthetic. It really feels man-made, right? Where Turkey or whoever had this ingenious idea in their mind to put Crawford up basically 3 weight classes, because I'm not really even counting 154 because he didn't do nothing there. He fought one time against a guy with 11 fights, and that was Israel Madrimov. And he won in a tooth and nail type of fight, but he didn't have a Jermell Charlo type of run at 154. He literally has one fight at 154. And to be honest, it wasn't the type of performance for me that made me, because there were rumblings and there were these rumors that Turkey was trying to get this fight done. And I said it back then, I'm saying it now. Nothing has changed. I haven't been hyped for this fight. Canelo looked like his last fight with William Skull for whatever reason, the style, the Cuban, lateral movement, whatever. And Crawford was in almost a life or death type of fight for the first half of the fight. And then he kind of stepped it up and won some principal late rounds. And this is at 54. So I just don't like the weight class jumping. And again, this feels like a forced fight. Like, boxing and its fans are really easy to understand, but the powers that be oftentimes overcomplicate that. Boxing fans will tell you loud and clearly what they want. Fights like Canelo and David Benavidez, that is atop of my list. But I'm not getting that. I'm getting instead Canelo fighting another former welterweight. My thing is this, and I will get to the press conference, but it's an unpacked, so Ego got a rant. Let me do my job, right? My thing is this. How come Canelo has this legendary hall pass to continue fighting smaller people throughout his whole career? No questions asked, right? Carlos Baldomir, he fought a 41-year-old like Baldomir who is now in prison. Look it up. I can't even say, let's just say Chris Hansen, T-Cap, right? But look it up. Now in prison, and you fought an old version of him. You fought a 41-year-old Shane Mosley. I'm talking about Canelo on his way up, right? Who he came from lightweight, right? He was a killer at lightweight. 47, he was still a problem. Beat De La Hoya, rocked Floyd Mayweather, fought Pacquiao, blah. But you fought him at a division that it really wasn't Shane's best division at 54, right? So that's just a few. Then you got Jose Cito Lopez, right? He beat Victor Ortiz. You were supposed to fight Victor Ortiz in that fight, but he ended up getting his jaw broken, losing. So you fought the other welterweight, who was even smaller, who came from 140, and that was Josecito Lopez, right? This is all fact. I know the Canelo Cinnabons is mad. The Bud Buddies is mad because I know so much boxing. I know more than you done forgot. I knew all this stuff. Y'all wasn't even watching boxing. So anyway, that's my thought there. He just keeps fighting smaller people. Amir Khan. And then he knocks Amir Khan out and we're supposed to be surprised. Jermell Charlo, great fighter, but he's a great fighter at 54, not where you pull him up. You know what I mean? People wanted to see you fight Big Charlo, Jamal Charlo. Yeah, keep running your mouth. But before he had mental health problems and took a long hiatus dealing with that, there was a point in time where he was crispy at 160 and active, and that would have been a great fight. Demetrius Andrade, again, would have been a great fight. Canelo's at 160. Then he kept moving up and fighting Kovalev at 75 and Beevils and fighting at 68, and he never went back down. Now, Jermell Charlo was probably the last guy. I mean, even Jaime Munguia is a guy who he was really at 54 too. But I'm not even going to throw Jaime because he's kind of big and he just failed a PED test. So whatever. And Canelo started, at welterweight 54. So that's cool. But Crawford started at 135, people. 135. Just like Shane Mosley, right? Starting in the 130s and then having to fight Canelo. But Shane Mosley had to fight Canelo when he was like 22 or whatever at 154. Crawford's having to fight him, and Crawford's going to be 38 the month of the fight, and he's having to fight Canelo, who's younger, does have mileage on him because he's been fighting for a while, and he has to fight him at a weight class that Crawford has never been at. And he's been fighting one time a year, Terence Crawford. So when you factor all this in, it just doesn't promise to be the super fight that they're saying is going to be. And I really think it's going to underperform and underdeliver, and fans are going to be upset for some reason. But we'll see how it plays out. But the promotion has had a lot of hiccups, we'll say. Just little things like announce the fight for a Friday, then you announced it for Saturday. You said Dana White was the promoter, then you said he wasn't. Sella was going to do it. Then you sounded like you were open for suggestions outside of Vegas for the fight to take place. But then Canelo and Crawford we want to fight in Vegas. It's just been all over the place. Now they did this press conference, right? They announced it officially. It's on a Saturday, September 13th on Netflix. And they did the press conference. And boy, if you don't look at what you see on the screen, Ring Magazine got almost 400,000 subscribers. They did 24K in terms of viewership. And this is almost a day ago, 17 hours ago, right? These are the current stats. So, mind you, we have never seen Terence Crawford and Canelo ever do a press conference together. They did one face-off after Canelo's horrible performance versus William Skull, and that was about it. So we've seen them face off, but we never really heard them. The Piers Morgan interview hasn't actually released in its entirety as of me recording the video, and we haven't seen the two people actually together promoting the fight ever. So you would think I don't know, if this was the mega super fight like they keep saying it is, you would get some better viewership. Now, look on the left side of your screen. Netflix, they have over 30 million, 30.9 million subs on their YouTube account. Look at the viewership, bro. Listen, I know y'all mad. I know that. The haters gonna hate because I'm keeping it oh so real. And y'all don't like that. So go to them other channels that are going to lie to you and clickbait you. We ain't got time for it over here. Put that in perspective. Netflix has pretty much 31 million YouTube subscribers, and they did the very first press conference for their fight that's going to be on Netflix, and it did 73,000 views. Bro, these early indicators or indications of numbers they don't look good. You know, can they step it up? Yeah, theoretically they can. But I just feel like you would think the first of its kind would peak. You know what I mean? Like, for example, if Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor did their very first press conference, I think it was the one that was in Los Angeles, I guarantee you it did some good numbers. When Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia had their first press conference, I guarantee you it did good numbers. When we know for a fact when Canelo did the press conference with Caleb Plant, that did numbers because Caleb Plant and Canelo got into a scuffle and start pushing each other and slapping and shoving each other, right? So to me, this is not the enormous fight that they're saying it is. And this is why I love doing my unpacks, because I could really get off and get on y'all head. Pause. Right? You guys kept telling, oh, this is a huge fight. Bro, Netflix, 31 million subscribers. They're doing 73,000 on the very first presser. That don't look like no crazy number for a fight that if everyone wants to see. You know what I mean? And that's not even including like the Netflix people who have the app. We're just talking about YouTube. But that's for free on YouTube. It wasn't pay-per-view. You could have watched the press conference. That's all the numbers you're gonna get. So for me, it just feels like Turkey and people involved with this fight, they want it to be something special and memorable and stuff. And they keep throwing money at it. Oh, hey, I make it rain on them woes, I make it rain. Right? And you just throwing bread. But realistically, boxing, you got to do it right. And if you don't, you're really just wasting money, you know, at a point where if you're doing things that aren't profitable. Now, I am going to be very curious to see the tickets when they go on sale, what the prices are, because one is in a stadium. So not every seat is going to be a lavish seat. You know what I mean? And you look at certain fights that are priced well, then tickets can sell good. But a fight for me that comes to mind is Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. That fight was priced horribly. The ticket prices were way, way overpriced for what that was. You know what I mean? And fans aren't dumb. And even if fans would be down to go see your event, you have to set the prices at something that's reasonable for the event that you have. So I am very curious to see what the price point will be for tickets. Like if you're in the nosebleed or lower level, ringside, how much are these tickets going to go? Because if they are extremely steep, I think they're going to have some issues. I really believe that. They're going to have some issues. You're going to have to price this to sell. That's what I call it, price to sell. Again, when it comes to boxing fans, you can't force feed us nothing. You can't tell us what we need to see. Fans that want to see Canelo and David Benavidez, fights like that, not getting it, right? You can't just, hey, like if somebody wants a steak and you're like, oh, I ain't got a steak, but here's some corn nuts. I didn't ask for corn nuts. You know what I mean? I'm in the mood for a steak. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what I feel with this fight. This fight is corn nuts. You know, and I don't have nothing against corn nuts, but they're super hard to eat. You know what I mean? They're like crunchy and stuff. You might not always be in the mood for that, right? People have a craving for what they have a craving for. So the press conference to me was mid. You know, I didn't really see nothing special. Interesting, Dana White wasn't there from what I seen. And he's supposed to be the lead promoter. Dana White is the lead promoter, and he didn't want to take the trip to Saudi, or maybe because he got the fight with Jamal Hill. You know what I mean? Maybe I guess he couldn't go because he was busy. But that just furthers my issues with this particular fight. You dig? Like, you got a guy who's not a natural in boxing in recent years, in Dana White. For his first show, you're giving him probably the biggest show you probably could get. And reasonably, no one else outside of Turkey would probably do this. meaning knowing it would take someone who's not seasoned like a Espinoza, Richard Schaefer, Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, or whoever, Oscar De La Hoya, and give a seasoned promoter, not give the seasoned promoters the opportunity to host a fight, Tom Brown or somebody, but instead give it to someone in a completely different sport. So, whatever, politics, TKO, whatever, that's what they decided to do. But it almost feels like somewhat of a conflict of interest. Some boxing fans have certain feelings towards Dana White. Some boxers, like Paulie Malignaggi, has been outspoken against Dana White and says he don't want him in boxing, this, that, and the third. And then if he still run his shows where he got shows that UFC is putting on or whatever the case is, right? Doing random UFC shows. And he's like, hey, I can't leave. I got this UFC show. And you're doing the press conference. It's just weird. There's no fight that's a super fight that's been rolled out like this. Name one. See, people get mad at me because I'm so real and I speak and I'm unapologetic and you ain't gonna do nothing about it, right? Name a fight that got rolled out like this, where they said it was on Friday, then they said, psych, it's on Saturday. They said it was going to be in Vegas, then there was confusion. They said Dana White was on, then they said he was off, then they said he's back on. They had the first press conference, and the lead promoter wasn't there. Name a fight that happened, because Dana White was at Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, right? You had Espinoza was there when Showtime was in the boxing business, and they were doing Gervonta Davis, Ryan Garcia. Right, it's pretty customary. De La Hoya is going to be there for when he had Canelo Golovkin in these fights. So it's weird. Like, I understand Dana White has job to do with UFC, but it's just weird. How's this going to work if he's like juggling all these shows that he got going on in the UFC world and then going to miss certain things? And this is supposed to be getting the royal red carpet treatment. So again, you can't just throw money at something and then expect people to like pander and pick up on it. So really they can continue saying, oh, it's the fight of the millennia and this is the fight of the century, oh my gosh, and promote it that way, but that ain't gonna do nothing. In fact, they had WWE, right? WWE, which is under the TKO banner, and they simultaneously, so Ring, Netflix, and WWE all did the live stream for the press conference, right? I showed you that, right? The WWE one, after almost a day, is at 67,000 views. Like, what are we doing, bro? UFC and WWE, completely different audiences to boxing. There might be a small pool of crossover fans, but this is completely different. So we're talking about a fight they're saying is $200 million. Crawford might get like 50 million. Canelo get 150 million, right? That's what people are reporting. I don't know the actual pay scale, but obviously they are getting something good, right? And between WWE's YouTube, Ring, who's putting on the fight, and Netflix, you add all those numbers up so far, you can't even generate 500,000 viewership. I don't know. But then you guys are like, again, oh, this is the biggest fight everybody's been asking for. Okay. So everybody's been, quote, asking for it, but the numbers aren't indicating that. That's what I said. It's like a used car salesman. You're trying to sell me something. I'm not a fan of that. Be real, be natural. Say Crawford's undefeated. Canelo only got 2 losses. You know what I mean? Tell us the real stuff. But all these it's the fight, the best of the generations and best of the century. You could do that all day, and they've done that. Turkey's famous for doing it. Doing these cinematic movie theater commercials, and then they'll get Liam Neeson to do the narration and all that. That's nothing. It does nothing. That is not inherently what's gonna make people watch. If it's a good fight, it's a good fight. If people have been asking for the fight and it's something they want to throw down on, then they're gonna do that. You know what I mean? And there are ways to increase one's likelihood of doing that, but personality wise, Canelo nor Crawford really takes it upon themselves to really dig deep and take it there in terms of promoting the fight, right? Canelo just recently started going on like Breakfast Club and some shows. Crawford will do that occasionally, but it's not just going on the shows. You have to have something to talk about and make people want to watch. I mean, from this press conference, I don't even know who watched it. It was in Saudi Arabia on a Friday, and I just showed you the numbers. And I don't think it trended on Twitter. I didn't really see no one talking about it. I'm just now getting to the video. I went to see 28 years later, you know what I mean, and eat. So I'm playing catch up because nobody was really talking about it. But I get paid to do this, so I'm different. But I tell you guys all the time, I am the best in the business, and it's not even close. Listen to what I say. Listen to what the fighters say after me, right? So I must know a thing or two. There are so many content creators in boxing, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, that put out low quality content, cheap looking thumbnails, rushed video. Let me just put a 3-minute, 4-minute video up real quick. Lies, clickbait, not really breaking down boxing. The stuff I say, book it, right? Now, speaking of, Turkey made some noise and headlines when he announced he doesn't want Tom and Jerry style fight, right? He don't want to see running and all that. And I told you guys in the videos, check them out, still on the page. That was bizarre. That was something very bizarre because you ain't going to dictate how a fighter, you're not taking the punches. This is literally what I said. You're not taking the punches for a living, right? So who are you from the sidelines to dictate how the fighter fights? It don't make sense to me, right? You can put in a bid or a suggestion or, you know, I hope you do this, but ultimately when you're getting lumped up and punched in the face, none of that stuff matters. Your coach could tell you whatever. Your girlfriend on the side or wife can scream and be crying. None of that matters when you're in that square circle, right? And I told you guys that. So I understand Turkey, he don't want boring fights. He don't want fights where people aren't engaging, which I would say there are some of these younger fighters that is a problem. Like they're calling it boxing, but they're not engaging. But I stand on the way he went about it is not what's going to solve the problem, right? Oh, let me just put out a tweet and then people are supposed to fight different. And then presumably if you don't, I'm not going to be working with you in the future. Who are you? You don't have a stable. You don't have a stable to be cutting people off because they didn't excite you enough when they fought. So you could do it. It's your money. Turkey could be like, oh, I don't want to work with Devin Haney or Shakur or this guy or Skoll or whoever fought in a style that he don't like. But again, you're trying to promote cards and some guys are promotionally tied to other people. So you already don't have access to them. So you would just be alienating certain people from that as well. But to illustrate this in real time and prove my greatness, Terence Crawford virtually said exactly what I said about ain't nobody gonna tell him how to fight. I'm the fighter. I've been doing this my whole life. So even though he's cool with Turkey, that's kind of a direct shot at Turkey. Like, yeah, you paying the bills and keeping the lights on, but ain't nobody gonna tell me how to fight, which is exactly what I said. Roll the clip.
It had not been what the fans is used to seeing, being that I was on a KO streak. So I'm cool with my performance and my victory, and I'm looking to be bigger, better in this next one.
You heard His Excellency saying no more Tom and Jerry, no more running, but you're moving up 2 weight classes. It's not going to be smart for you to stand there and hammer it out with this guy. So how do you kind of balance that, not running, but being elusive in fighting Canelo?
However I got to fight, I'm going to win. Simple as that. I'm not going to let somebody else force me or tell me how to fight when I've been fighting my whole life. You know, I won't be running. You know, I could tell you that. But I will be, you know, doing a lot of touching.
Well, you don't move up 2 weight classes to fight someone like this, and you've been calling out forever, if you don't see a path to victory, you don't see holes in his game.
Boom. So you heard it from Bud Crawford, the Bud Buddies. He just said exactly what Boxingego been telling y'all. You can't dictate how a fighter is going to fight, because tell that to Jin Sasaki. He got knocked out by Brian Norman Jr. and he was fighting no Tom and Jerry style, and he got brutally knocked out, woke up and said he can't remember a thing for the last 6 weeks. So again, when you're not taking the punches, it's easy to just declare you should do this or duck or this. You're not the one in there. And that shows me that some people have more to learn about the sport of boxing. Speaking of more to learn, the host of this press conference, he was asking like bizarre questions at times, right? Where he said, Canelo Crawford, you were on Piers Morgan's show and you talked about fighting him, which was already weird. Like, Piers Morgan said on the show he's 60 years old. And I mean, I guess he solicited the question, but Canelo and Crawford were saying like, we'll whoop you, which is weird. Like, I mean, is that a cool thing to whoop a 60-year-old reporter? You know what I mean? But whatever. But then the host of this press conference said, hey, on Piers Morgan, you guys talked about street fighting. What would happen if Canelo and Crawford, if you guys fought in the street? And then Crawford said something like, oh, I would say I would win. I'm not going to ever pick anyone to beat me. And then Canelo said, it don't have to be Guadalajara, anywhere in any city. He ain't beating me in the street. But we're not talking about a street. We have a sanctioned fight. That was so weird. Like, it almost feels like they're trying to change boxing. And I don't like that. They're trying to make this like the UFC. Oh, Tom and Jerry. We don't want no Tom and Jerry style fights. So they're like trying to glorify not the sweet science. And fighters need to fight a particular way. You can't tell people how to fight. Then the host is talking about what would happen if y'all had a street fight. Is this a podcast? You know what I mean? Like, I see that with like Bradley Martin will be like, oh, Nate Diaz, what happens if me and you fought in a street fight? That's a podcast though. You're doing a press conference for a sanctioned boxing match that's supposed to be the biggest fight and the biggest fight of the century. Why are you asking about Crawford, a millionaire, and Canelo, a multimillionaire, that have a scheduled sanctioned fight? What would happen if they were idiots and fought in the street? And then furthermore, nobody's trying to hear that when they were just eating dinner together. Why would they fight in the street and they ain't eating dinner together the day before the press conference? So this promotion is off to a bad start. I felt that was very goofy. Goofy to ask 2 pro fighters that are boxers scheduled for a fight what would happen in some imaginary fairy tale street fight. And then I feel like boxing media got to do better, because questions like that, what response do you think you're going to get? Like, there's under no circumstance, it could be a journeyman. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, he'll whoop me in the street. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't like when boxing media, and boxing media is probably the worst at it, where they'll ask questions and it's like they're pretty much like kind of dumb, because there's like only one way that most people are going to answer that. Like, a fighter will get knocked out and they say, do you feel bad right now? I mean, like, what else? What is the person supposed to say? You know, Crawford, what is he supposed to say? He's going to lose in a street fight, an imaginary street fight with Canelo? And he's like, you have a wrestling background. Why are we talking about these fighters that are millionaires in a big scheduled fight? They have teams and sparring and weeks of preparation and nutritionists and families. Why are we even talking about them engaging in extracurricular street fights? I found that off-putting and very weird. Sidebar. But getting back to that point about they're switching things up and like just trying to do too much, in my opinion, and make this like the WWE or the UFC, eating dinners together. I don't prefer stuff like that, right? Again, you could throw how much money, whatever amount of money you want behind like the glamour and glitz of it, doesn't mean it's going to resonate. Now, another thing to prove this point is Turkey mentioned that there's going to be a win bonus if Canelo or Crawford get a knockout. That's super weird. That's like UFC stuff, but it don't really make sense in boxing. Here's why, right? For one, in boxing, if you're going to start doing bonuses, you should do a performance bonus. Here's why. Because certain guys aren't power punchers, but they can have a great performance, right? So if you're doing a performance bonus, then different fighters will be eligible to have it. Like imagine Devin Haney or Shakur. They haven't had knockouts in a while, like real knockout. I'm not even including Padley because that was like late terms. I'm talking about a person that had a full camp. Like Shakur's last knockout was Yoshino probably, and Devin Haney's last knockout was in 2019. So if you start implementing no Tom and Jerry fights and these knockout bonuses trying to be like the UFC, it's kind of weird because in boxing, there's only one way to achieve a knockout. Like one real way for like, I'm not talking about technical headbutts and stuff like that, but that's by your hands. But in the UFC, elbows or kicks or, punches, strikes, different ways to achieve that, right? You can get kneed and get knocked out, blah, blah, blah. So it feels weird, Furthermore, when we're talking about Canelo and Crawford, they've already been incentivized with 150 million and 50 million or whatever their purses are. So I highly doubt they're going to fight a riskier fight and go for a knockout that's not there because they're worried about scoring an extra 500K or $1 million. Like, it just sounds dumb to me, right? Like, just hear me out. If Canelo's making 150 million, how much could you be offering on a win bonus where he's going to risk, if he's winning the fight, he's going to risk it trying to push for a knockout? And I tell you guys all the time, the quickest way to get knocked out is to push for a knockout that isn't there, right? Anybody who boxes, anybody in boxing knows that. So it doesn't work like the UFC where you just push and push and push. These fighters are smart in boxing, right? They're not just going to go for the okie doke. And then like the thing that's bizarre, and I'm probably going to make a separate video about it, right? But it's very bizarre is Terence Crawford is moving up 14 pounds. Like, I feel like Canelo has a granite chin and Crawford is moving up so much weight to the point where for Crawford to get a knockout, that's a generous and a high expectation, right? So you can dangle the carrot of a knockout, but this is like such a reach of a fight that it's not even a fair bonus. You know what I mean? Because one guy's moving up in one motion 14 plus pounds, basically. Now, if this was Canelo and David Benavidez, that would make more sense because it's like both guys have fought at the same weight classes, blah, blah, blah. So if you want to incentivize them in their styles for a knockout, I guess have at it. But I find that to be very weird. And again, no one else is speaking on these. A lot of compromised media, so no one else is speaking on these things. It's I find it weird. You have certain fights that are happening within Ring or Riyadh season that are falling apart over money, but you got extra money to give people like Canelo and Crawford who are already making probably 50 million, 100 million, whatever, some crazy purse, and then you're going to tack on a million or two. It just don't seem like money well spent. And then at that level, if they're getting these crazy purses, they're not going to fight stupid trying to win some much smaller win bonus. And like, let's say Crawford is outboxing Canelo. It's not worth it for an extra 1 million tacked onto his $50 million purse to try to rush and push for a knockout. You see what I'm saying? So the whole promotion already feels weird to me. Turkey seems to really like Crawford, but a lot of what he's saying and doing, I don't know that it really benefits Crawford. right? A win bonus for a knockout. Does that benefit the smaller person? I mean, I guess Crawford, hypothetically could knock out Canelo, but given Canelo's past and his chin, I don't really see that, being the case. This is not Errol Spence post car crash we're talking about. This is a different division, blah, blah, blah. The no Tom and Jerry, no running rule. Doesn't that hurt Crawford more? Like, you're in Crawford's corner, and Canelo even mentioned this at the presser. He's like, Turkey's going to be really upset when I beat you. So Canelo knows that the fix is in terms of who Turkey wants to win and deliver. But again, it's weird because Turkey likes Terence Crawford, speaks highly of Terence Crawford, been working with him longer than Canelo, yet all the stuff he's implementing doesn't really benefit Crawford. But I'll let you guys listen. Roll the clip.
You said many times now that you don't want any more of these Tom and Jerry fights where one fighter is chasing the other one. What is your plan to kind of stop these fights?
We will not have him anymore. This is the first thing. The second, we will have in this fight and the next fight bonus for KO.
Do you expect him to run like a lot of people?
I hope not.
You don't think so?
I hope not. I hope not, because I think people deserve a good fight. And that's why we are here, right? To make a good fight and the best fighter win. And I expect he put a great fight.
I don't know. Feels a bit weird. Canelo is saying, I hope Terence Crawford don't run. Crawford is saying what he should be saying. I'm fighting how I want to fight. Can't nobody tell me how to fight. I've been fighting my whole life, which is the right thing. And again, if you're the guy moving up 14 pounds, why would it be expected that you have a slugfest and trade with Canelo? So the more they're trying to do all these gimmicks, the more it's making me not like the fight, right? I want to see good quality fights with two people that should be in the ring together. You're doing a win bonus and incentivizing what I would appear on paper, the bigger person has more of a chance of achieving that, right? And then no Tom and Jerry and small rings and stuff. So I just feel like Crawford is up against a whole lot and he don't even know it. There's no rehydration clause. Turkey is anti Tom and Jerry fights, wants smaller rings, trying to be like the UFC with win bonuses and knockout bonuses if you knock somebody out. I don't know. And my thing is this, is Crawford didn't knock out Madrimov. Is he truly going to move up 14 pounds off of a year layoff and knock out Canelo, who has shown a chin, doesn't get wobbled, fought Triple G, took his best punches? For me, that's what I'm saying. Either this fight is like staged and fixed, or it has heavy implications that lead towards a particular person, right? Because the only way I see it, like if Canelo, to me, I feel like if he get knocked out, he's more washed than I think, because we have seen some decay and regression from Canelo in his fights, right? So to me, that's the only way that Crawford would get a clean knockout over Canelo given these circumstances, is if Canelo is like more far gone in terms of out of prime than I had even anticipated. So that's my time. Let me know what you guys think. Promo, not off to a good foot for me. It just feels weird. Something about it. I don't know. The presser in Saudi Arabia didn't seem like too many people watched it. The new like rules and Tom and Jerry and knockout bonuses. It's weird. Why are you doing all this? Why are you doing all this, especially when the guy's moving up 2 weight classes, right? Imagine if PBC said, we'll give extra money to Canelo or Jermell Charlo if they get a knockout. That just seems weird. That seems weird. So you're trying to be creative, but you're reinventing the wheel, and you're trying to take things from other infrastructures, and it just don't work. Like, I know for a fact, because I'm a content creator and I found much success on multiple platforms, from Facebook to Instagram to YouTube, I have over 50,000 followers on all platforms, right? And I'm here to tell you, as a full-time, long-time content creator, each platform is different. Like, even something like a caption, you could post the same picture on Instagram versus Facebook, right? But it's probably best to change the caption because it's different crowds. I know it don't seem like it, but it is. I mean, even in your personal life, you don't even have to be a content creator. I'm sure you know somebody who they post all their risque pictures on their Instagram, but then they look like a different person on Facebook, probably because they got family members that follow them on Facebook. So they don't want to put like raunchy and provocative bikinis and stuff when they got family looking at their Facebook, but they feel better on Twitter and they feel better and more free on Instagram. So it's like all these platforms are different. All these platforms are different. You're trying to implement like WWE and UFC tactics in boxing. Boxing heads aren't going for it. I'm here to tell you. We unpacked. Live streaming can be tough, which is why I use StreamYard. Click the link in the description for StreamYard, which is an awesome tool that enables you to set up your stream with ease of use. Get great results with live streaming. It's what I use. Stream to social media with ease with StreamYard. Live streaming is here to stay. Engage with your audience using StreamYard. Great way to reach out to your audience and connect. So you need a tool that can do that. If you're new to YouTube and you're struggling to get views, one tool I can provide to you is TubeBuddy. I've been on YouTube over 10 years. I use TubeBuddy daily to crank out videos just like this one that you're watching. Learn how the pros do it with TubeBuddy. YouTube receives a lot of traffic, which also means a lot of creators, a lot of people putting out content. So you need to learn the ropes so you know how to separate yourself, especially if you're new, but even if you're a pro, use TubeBuddy. The link is in the description. Get more views, more subscribers, and a higher click-through rate, so ultimately you can realize all of your online goals. Use my affiliate link in the description and grow your channel fast.